Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
Let's launch into some questions here. Last night, somebody wrote in and said, sorry if this is personal, haha, but as I've come to accept my autism, I've also come to conclude that my bowel issues are most likely related to it. Is there a reason why autistic people have issues with their digestion? Is it solely because of our at times picky diets, or is it just a thing that happens? And here we go.
That's a great question, and thank you so much. And I will try to not spend the next entire hour talking about it because it's a big issue in our society and very much so for individuals on the spectrum, but in general for all of us. And no, it doesn't have to do with being picky. In fact, I think being picky is sort of a result of it, but let me kind of talk about what it is. So to begin with, the reason that bowel issues or gastrointestinal inflammation, which is really, so your bowels, your intestines are swollen, seems to be more prevalent with individuals who are autistic. The reason is that basically there's a genetic component of autism that has to do with redox. Redox means getting rid of toxins, our body's ability to detoxify itself. And from everything that we have learned, it seems that people who are autistic have this is a congenital condition. It's you're born with this ability to redox slower than everyone else. So your redox cycle is slightly too slow for the amount of toxins that are in our environment. So, and I always want to kind of just put this on a continuum and make it very real. So the example that I give is, two people can have a drink, like the same drink. Two people can have a glass of wine. This is actually very, this is so true. Like me and my husband, for example, we can each have a glass of wine. For him, it's absolutely nothing. It's as if he's had water. And that's because he's younger than I am, and also because he's an athlete, and also because he's has extremely high redox. So he detoxifies from things very, very rapidly. Whereas for me, my redox cycle is slower. So one glass of alcohol is about all I can handle, right? And then I'm just like, and I have a hangover the next day, and it just doesn't do well for me. So a lot of people have, so our redox cycles are a whole kind of curve, right? Some of us are really good or just are born with the ability to detoxify, others are not, and we fall on this continuum. Unfortunately, people with autism tend to be on the lower side of the continuum, so they have a harder time detoxifying. Now, this would be years and years and years ago. So we're talking like 40 years ago, let's say, the level of toxicity in our environment was so low that even people with the lowest redox cycle were not highly affected by it. But toxicity in our environment over the last 40 years has just gradually increased. And now it's gotten to the point where not only does it affect people who have a lower redox cycle, it's affecting all of us. Even people who have a pretty high redox cycle are affected by it. And when I talk about toxicity, I'm talking about all the things in our environment that our body has to work to detoxify from. So this would include, plastic. When we use plastic, and for those of you who are a little older, you remember that, 40, 50 years ago, we didn't have plastic. We had glass. Everything was in glass. In fact, that's kind of why when plastic came out, people were so excited about it. They had Tupperware parties. It was like, what is this cool item? Little did we know that years later it would cause massive amounts of toxicity for the whole world. That's one. And that, like, so our water source is also affected. That's a whole different, I can go into and talk a lot about how our water sources and our food source became toxic. A lot of it has to do with pesticides that were used just a few years ago, probably more like 20 years ago. And these pesticides, of course, later the bigger companies that produced these pesticides were sued. And they changed the formulas a little bit, but not all that much. And to be honest, all of our soil, all of our water has already been contaminated with pesticides, and it will take a long, long time to reverse that. So, yes, we are ingesting a lot of toxins. It's really funny, Shannon, because I'm today on the 11th day of doing the Whole 30 diet. I don't know if you know Whole 30.
A little.
Whole 30 is basically you do not eat anything that is coming out of a box, right? So everything you eat has to be a whole food that is basically organic. So it's like, just meats, vegetables, and and fruit, and that's it. Like, and nuts you're allowed, except for peanuts. But you are not allowed any sugar. You are not allowed anything that is fake, right? So like anything that has some sort of preservative, let's say. Obviously, no alcohol and no grains. So, no pastas and all that. And I cannot even tell you what a difference it has made in my GI system and my gastrointestinal system, and then how I feel. Like, my energy level is definitely higher. But more importantly, I was also one of those people struggling with irritable bowel and bloating, inflammation after pretty much everything I ate at this point. And it's only 11 days, and I feel like a different person. And so I think it definitely is a big issue. Our food source is no question about it, probably one of the most important things to get your hands on when you have a child with autism is the diet.
There you go. Well, and that sort of answers one of the next questions that we Ushlad had written in and said, hello, I have a question. How important is organic food for our kids? Does this make any difference? And
Yeah.
so I think you just answered that. And I also want to say to the person who had written in, I do think everybody that we've had on over the last 10 years, all the experts that we've had about nutrition talk about the fact this redux thing is a real thing with a lot of people, not just with people with autism, but it means that we have to deal with the gastrointestinal issues. Too often the person who wrote in said, am I just supposed to accept this? I've accepted that I have autism. Am I supposed to accept the digestion? Please don't. There
No.
is a better life for you. I love that in Western culture, they say happy gut, happy life. Here in Eastern culture, we say happy wife, happy life. But
Yeah,
the truth is, if your gut isn't happy, it's very hard to learn. It's very hard to be joyous. It's very hard to be grateful
that's right.
when your gut isn't happy. So please, take a look at that. And
Take
I'm
it
a big fan.
seriously, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the organic thing. When our family went largely organic, it made a huge difference for my son and his ability to focus, and it made a huge difference for me. So, and I now, when I eat things that are not organic, boy, I feel it. So,
Yeah,
I
and
don't.
be careful because there's a lot of, people will call things organic when they're not. And there are, you also have to kind of be careful because organic basically says they're not using chemical pesticides, but you also need to kind of worry about the soil that
Yeah.
they're using and the water and so on.
Yeah, I think it's important to know your farmers, and to be a localvore. I know people that take this to an extreme that I can't, but I know people who saw this with their kids and said, "Okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to pay a farmer to butcher an animal for me once a year, and we're going to pack the freezer, and that's where all of our meat is going to come from. I don't go to that extreme, but we belong to a CSA that delivers grocery direct from the farm every week.
That's nice.
And I grow, I don't know if you were part of the Great Bean Festival of 2020, Dr. Granpeesheh, but I grew these purple beans in my front yard that were insanity. And now I have snow peas planted. So in about a month, there will be bushels of snow peas. I'll bring them on the air
Nice.
for everybody.
Nice.
And easy enough to grow. So I know you're getting ready to plant at your house.
I am. I'm trying to actually find someone who can help me set up a real good farm because,
I've got somebody for you.
Oh, great. Great.
Okay. So, fantastic. And if anybody wants to know, I've got the best place for seeds. It's Baker Heirloom Seeds. They sell all organic heirloom seeds. And I'm telling you, these things, you put it in the ground and it grows. It's crazy.
Amazing.
And it's on fleek, as the kids used to say. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now.
To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.